Hi, I'm Stefan, the BMW DIY guy, and I have a fantastic project for you today. We're going to be installing the Bimmertech Alpha One speakers into this truly amazing A90 Toyota Supra. All right, so let's talk about the project here a little bit before we do it. And you know, if you're a Toyota Supra fan, you know how incredible these new A90s are. They're packed full of technology. They're packed full of BMW components, which may be surprising to some, but not if you're a fan. But one of the few places that you can criticize kind of the stock car is the speakers aren't very good. But this is where Bimmertech comes in with their Alpha One speakers, and I cannot wait to get these installed. This beautiful Supra from Performance House is amazing and is upgraded in every way possible, but still has the stock speakers. So one of the best things we can do to improve that is get the Alpha One speakers installed, and I want to walk you through that whole process. It isn't very hard. It takes only a few simple tools. Now remember, everything you need and the links will be listed below, so check that out so you can get these speakers yourself. You'll have all the tools and everything you need, and let me show you how you can do it too. Okay, so let's show how to take your door card off. Now, as we go through this, I'm only going to show one side or where applicable on everything, because it's just going to be a repeat on the other side as well. So to get your door card off, it's really not hard at all. First of all, you've got a cover down here in the door pull well right here. In this cover, you've got to get a plastic trim tool or a pick tool under the little lipped edge right here. Be very careful so you don't break this plastic or chew it up really badly. Underneath that are two T20s. Now, back here behind your door lock pull as well, you've got another cover right here that, again, use a pick tool or a plastic trim tool, pull this cover off, and you've got a single T20 right there. So pull all three of those. Now underneath, and really hard to show, there's a little well right here and right here. Now, when you get underneath the door and look up, you're going to see a white circular, essentially it's like a gear or a cam that has a little oblong wings on it. And you take a 10mm wrench and turn that cam, just turn it enough to release those wings into the shape that's actually into the door card itself. When you turn it, and what I will do is apply a little bit of positive pressure here on the door card so you can see where suddenly it gaps a little. It's past the little arms on that cam. That cam will turn forever, so you're not unscrewing it, you're just turning it like a little wedge to get it through the shaped hole here on the door card. So get both of those, get all three of those bolts off, and then you can start to pull your door card. Now to pull it, there's a whole series, just like, you know, on BMWs as well, there's little plastic pressure pins that go around the outside. So what I will do is I'll take a large plastic trim tool once I've got those screws out and I've got those cams turned, and I'll slide it here between the metal and the door card and pop one of the sides. Once I've got that off, I can get my fingers in underneath and just start to gently pull and pry away on all of that. So let me get the door card loose, and then I'll show you the next steps, because we have to unplug basically the door lock or the door lock pull and all the speakers and lights and switches. So once you do all that, you don't want to yard on and break cabling or have any problems like that. But let me get all of this loose, and then I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so as you pull your door card, if you've never done this before, it can be a little startling at times, because you'll get these loud pops and creaks, right? And then there's a row, kind of a narrow channel across the top that locks it in across the top. You also have to be really careful of your locking pins. So you got to get this top corner and this channel across the top. And then, once you get that, feed it up and off the pin. Now, let me readjust here really quick. Sorry for shaky camera. But as we're here, you're going to see, now you get into all your cables here in the back. So this is your door pull. You gently lift up and out, and it pulls out and away. Now, all the rest of your cables come out a little, each one is a little bit different. You've got the center one here that is this blue plug that you're going to pull down. You've got this one that's hard to show right here, but it's for your window switches. It's your typical kind of horse collar one, where you press down a little tab and undo that locking collar across the top. So it's a little hard to show, but you can get your fingers on it. It will come out, okay? And then also, as you'll see, you've also got the rest of your cables here for your speakers. So now we're just down to this last cable right here that has all of these little clips on it. There you go. So now your door card is off and free. Now once you get it off, go ahead and take it and put it off someplace safely, because we're going to be taking your tweeter out right here. And we'll take that out, but put this someplace safe. Now the other thing is, make sure to put your door card down on something soft. You don't want to scrape it up. Just keep in mind you've got all your plastics and everything. So put it down on something soft on your workbench. Don't scrape it up. I've done that before. It's a bit of a drag. So, okay, we're going to take the mid and the tweeter out. So let's go over to the workbench and take a look at taking the tweeter out. All right, so here's your door card, and we're going to need to take the tweeter out. Now, this being a little bit different than, like, for example, if you watched my F87 video where we were able to pick the tweeter out without taking the whole frame out. In this case, we actually have to take the frame that the tweeter itself is sitting in, because there are a bunch of the locking tabs holding the tweeter down that are completely covered by the frame around it. So, a couple of things you're going to need to do first. You've got this little clip right here. You can just use a pick tool and get in and just push this clip off. Same thing for this bigger clip right here. All of the wiring, you can see, is held down by the tape, so you can pull all of that. Now, all of that said, let me kind of visually explain what we're looking at. There are 4 locking tabs holding this whole tweeter surround in. There's 2 kind of sharper tabs in the back that really dig in, and then there's 2 larger ones here in the front or top that are more just kind of pressure holding it in place. So what I recommend is that actually, if you can see right here, you can see one of those little locking tabs. You can take a pick tool and work it back behind that locking tab and work it out, because then that'll back that whole locking pin back out. Now what you can do is, if you have more than one pick tool, you can kind of work it back behind that locking tab right here and work the pick tool behind it like that. And I actually have the pick tool, so here's that locking tab, and I have the pick tool sitting like this, holding the whole thing back. So I can do that on one side, I can do it on the other, right back here, and then this whole thing will start to push out. You've got 2 bigger ones right here that don't have such aggressive locks on them, and then you push this whole assembly forward and it will come out of your door card. At that point, we can get to the little tabs that hold down the tweeter. So let me get this out, and then I'll show you that next step after I pull all the rest of the cabling and pull the tape. Okay, so now that you can see the frame is out, you can actually see all the little locking tabs here that are holding the tweeter into place. So you're going to do the exact same process of just kind of carefully backing these little hooks off, and then you can't push the tweeter from the front like you can in some other cases. In this case, you're just going to be backing all these little hooks out, and then you can lift the tweeter. You can get a little bit of positive pressure on the tweeter once you back those hooks out, and it'll pop straight out. Once you have that out, you just take the new one and snap it right back into the same place, and we're going to walk through putting the frame back in, but it really is that simple now that you can get to these little locking tabs, 1, 2, 3, 4, that go all the way around. So I usually, like I said, just usually use a pick tool really carefully. You don't want to break the plastic. As you can see, it starts to get free there, and then you can back the tweeter out. Okay, so let's get that done, and then we're going to get it reinstalled into your door card. Okay, so all back into place. A couple of things I wanted to point out. So you've got this little clip that was on the original, that was around this little, it's probably a resistor or something. So you can take that clip off, and there's this very similar sort of little resistor pack on the new wiring. You can put it into the same clip and clip it back into place. It goes into the big clip, and then there's a little lip on it that goes onto this plastic ridge. You've got all the original tape here that if you pried it up gently, you can just reuse it. When you press this, so you put the cable through the hole that you feed back in here. When you put it back here, right here is a little notch groove, and on the frame itself, the big housing frame, there's a ridge. So you put that, when you push it from this side, you fit that ridge in, and then the whole thing just snaps up cleanly in place. It's all locked into place really nicely. Now your door card's done. So let's go ahead and head back to the door. We're going to replace the mid, which is really simple. We're going to get that done. Then I'm going to show you how this all plugs in together with the correct wiring harness, and then we can put our door card back on, and it's done. Okay, so we're back here at the door. So you have 3 T20s that you're going to take out, 1, 2, 3. You also have where the OEM plug here is in the side of the speaker, so go ahead and be careful when you pull that out. These plugs can often be really stiff, and you're changing your speakers out. This plug's probably never been undone since the factory, so just be careful that you don't pull too hard on the wires and pull it out of the plug itself. These can be surprisingly stiff. So take all 3 of these out, and then we're going to put the new one into place. Now I've got this pre-staged already a little bit. Now with your new mids, you've got a new wiring harness you're going to have to include to split off to the tweeter. So when you look at these wiring harnesses, you've got one side that says TW out or tweeter out. You've got one side that says mid out. The mid out is what's going to plug into the new mid. Now you can route it really nicely, as you can see, and there's a notch in the side of the foam and in the side of the frame right here. So when you line this up, it's going to be lined up like this. You can see the cable isn't going to get pinched. It's going to sit down in this notch. So it sits between the frame. You don't have any gap or your speaker sitting unevenly. It's going to sit really nicely. So you can route the cable really nicely, get it all set back up in here. So go ahead and take all three of these out. Pull the original out after you unplug it, put the new one into place, and then you can start to plug this all back together and you'll have your door done. Okay, so now that you've got the new speaker in, and normally the way that these holes are staggered, it really kind of goes in one way. You've got the original OEM plug here that's coming out of your vapor barrier essentially, and that will go into your one in right here. So that's all plugged in. And then you've got your plug here for your tweeter as well, which is over in the door card. So you've got your rest of your wiring and everything else is all set up. So that's ready to go. So you can bring your door card back over and start to plug everything back in. Now, one thing I want to share here really quickly. So if you notice right here, this is where your screw for, where your door pull is, right there to unlock your door. So now these little screw mounts, unlike these that are down in the door pull itself, but up here where the door handle to unlock it is, this plastic fitting right here actually has a white piece that sits on the back of it where that screw goes into. Now, if you push super hard on this or push too hard, you can push the backing back off and then your screw won't screw into anything anymore. Plus the backing will fall down into your door. So when you put this one back in, be very careful. Put the screw in very gently. Make sure that once you have it in there and it's set. Now, the other thing that I also think is possible to do, that once you get your screw in, if you probably crank on it too hard, so imagine your door card's on and you put the screw in, once it goes snug, just put it on just snug. Because once it gets tight, if you continue to turn, I bet the back part of this that the screw is going into could spin and break free. And once that's broken free, then you might have problems again if you ever want to get that screw out. So just be really gentle with this one when you do it. But bring your door card back over, plug everything back into its original placing. Now, and it's a little hard to show because when putting your door card on and film, you need about 5 hands at the same time. So let me just show. So make sure when you put your door card, this will go back into, it kind of slots into that little trough assembly it goes into like this. It goes in and locks down into place with this little tab right here. Always check your door pull, your door lock, before you put your door card all the way back on to make sure that it's pulling the pin appropriately. And then, as it locks all the way across the top, just take your door card, push it gently into place all the way across the top with your pin in the correct place up through the door card. And then once that's all lined up, you can then gently with your hand press or gently strike and push all of those push pins that go back into place here throughout all the different holes. So it really is that simple. It probably sounds more complicated than it really is. But once that's done, you can take those little cams right here that you can see now here on the bottom. You can see how they have little arms on them. Take your little cams and just kind of quarter turn them, to get them to lock back into place. Put your two T20s back in and put this top T20 back on gently, and then put your covers back on and your door card is done. You'll repeat the same process over on the other side. It's exactly the same. Okay guys, so there's some really hard camera angles from the inside, so I'm looking through the windshield right now, as you can see, and I still have a bunch of reflection, but I want you to be able to see what we're looking at. So you've got this plastic trim that comes down over your center channel, and you've got a mid and tweeter up here in the center. So what you're going to do is you're going to use a plastic trim tool under one of the edges and pry it up, because it's just clipped down into place, but it's really hard to see from the inside. So I wanted to give you this shot through the windshield so you can see it and have it make a little bit more sense. So go ahead and use your plastic trim tool, go ahead and pull that cover off, and then we're going to pull the mid and tweeter out. Okay, again, looking through the top, that front cover's off. It's just a series of clips all the way around the outside. It can be a little stubborn coming out, so just make sure to use a plastic trim tool and you can get that out. Now, when you look at it, you can see that we've got 3 little T20s holding down the mid, and you've got 2 T20s holding down that shaped tweeter. Because when you got the kit from Bimmertech, you should have one tweeter that's on this shaped bezel. So that's where that goes. So go ahead and take all of those out, unplug the speakers, and then we can fit the new ones in Don't forget your wiring harness that goes in as well. But go ahead and get all these speakers out and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so the one thing we're gonna have to do with the mid here in the center channel is we're gonna have to take a little bit of the ear of the plastic of the speaker off. And this is the slight difference between these upgrades and the OEM. There's a little bit of a ridge that we've already taken off right by the ear right there. You can also see the mark with the pen on that one ear that actually protrudes a little bit into the frame. So we're going to use a Dremel with a burr, and we're going to just cut back a little bit of an indentation back into the ear so the speaker will line up properly. You can see on that back ear right there where it's out of line with the screw hole a little bit, and you can see how much it's off. So when we go back to the front one right there, you can see that's the one we're going to be looking at. We're going to use, and you can just use a pen. You can see where we've marked, where we're going to take a little bit of the material of the speaker off. We'll do that, and I'll show you what that looks like when it's done, but you're going to need to do that as well. All right, so as you can see where we marked with the pen, just took that corner edge off and to buff that corner a little bit so it'll fit cleanly now. So let's go back to the car, we'll fit it in, and then just screw all your speakers down. All right, through the windshield again, just because it's so hard to see from inside the cabin. As you can see that the tweeter is in place, though not screwed down, and the new mid is in place with that corner buffed off the ear right there, so it'll fit in properly. So I took the tab off that stuck up a little bit, and then buffed a little bit of an indentation in, and you know, just use a Dremel tool with a grinding wheel on it, and you can grind it a little bit, check your fitment, you know, grind it again if you have to, just to get it all fit in. So plug it all back into place with the correct wiring harness, get it all done, secure it down, and then put your cover on, and then we can move to the mid-body speakers next. Okay, so to get prepped for the rear speakers plus the subs, we've taken the backboard out. You just lift and take that out, and then you're going to want to take this piece out as well, because you're going to have to lift the carpet piece that covers the subs. You've got two little trim locks here and here, and take those out, and then this board will come out entirely. Now, you may or may not have the holes here as well for the outputs for your subs. That's an actual change that's been made on this car, so if you don't have that, don't be surprised, and if you don't have it, look into it. It really may make a substantial difference for you, so definitely think about that. But let's go ahead and transition. We're going to be taking all these side plastics off, and I'll show you what that looks like so we can get to those speakers and then change out the subs. Okay, so we're shooting across the car because this is such a tight space, it would be hard to see if I had the camera in closer, but all these pieces have to come off in order. So this piece has to come off first, that goes all through here, all across the top, and it has that same typical sort of body panel plastic clips that are going into holes. So you're going to use a plastic trim tool to get underneath this to pry and start to pull it out. This piece will come off. Now there's also a plastic bracket, plastic rubbery bracket that surrounds your cross brace. The next piece to come off is this piece right here, also held in by plastic trim clips. I find it actually easier to get my trim tool in and pull this bracket back, and you slide it back down the bar, which gives you a little bit more space to work with here. So this piece, and then this piece, all these will come off, all to get this lower section free, and you have to get these off first before you get to this, because you have to take this and move it down and pull it away to be able to get to the speakers. But go ahead and get underneath this with your plastic trim tool. I don't have it on hand right now, but you can just see I can start to get my fingers in here. You know, pull this out, pull that free, get this free after you pull this little surround off and slide it back, and then same thing here. Now this also latches up into the top as a little tab that latches up in, so you're going to pull your C-pillar cover. Essentially, this is a C-pillar. You're going to get it from the bottom edge, pry it away, and then pull the tab out from the top. So once you have all those three pieces out, we're going to get to some T20s here that hold this lower piece in place. But let's not get too far ahead. Get these out first, here, here, and here, and then we'll take this off. All right, so now all of that plastic is off, though. We still need to take the C-pillar cover off right here. It's not off yet, but what I wanted to do is show you the T20s. So there's a T20 here, the T20 right back here. I know it's a little hard to see. This is so tight for space because this goes around your seatbelt. So once your C-pillar cover is off, we'll take that off next, but we'll take these two T20s off here and here, and then this whole assembly is going to come out and slide down. You'll never take it off quite completely. It's just going to pop out with the same kind of body panel clips, slide out and slide down, and we can get to the frame that's holding the speakers in. So make sure to take this off, take your T20s out, and then slide this panel out and down and put it into this back behind the seat well. Okay, so I'm going to freehand the camera here for a little bit because it's easier to see with your eye. It's a little hard to show on the camera, but you've got 3 screws, and they're T20s again here, right here behind the seatbelt, right there, and a third one kind of tucked halfway behind the carpet right back here that holds this frame into place. And then you can take the entire frame out and take it over to your workbench, because it's going to be easier for you to work with all of this if you take the frame out. So you might as well just take these 3 bolts out, then you can take the tweeter and the mid out and replace them. Okay, so as you can see, the frame's out, got over here on the workbench. Now, one little bit of a difference that we have here is from the factory, they went a little bananas with glue. So you've got all the clips holding everything in, and you've got screws holding everything in, but you've got a bunch of glue. So you've got little glue globs on the tweeter here, here, and here, so you're gonna have to cut through the glue just to separate it. You've got glue as well here on the resistor, holding all the cabling down. And you even have glue here on the mid, as you can see the little globs of it all the way around. So just take a shop knife and just cut through the glue patches. And then you'll take these 3 T20s out, and then the tweeter's gonna come out the same way, that it has these little small clips that retain and hold it in place, just like that one. The plastic can be fragile, be careful. As you can tell, I just broke one. So there are 3 more, 1, 2, 3, so be really gentle. I applied weight, I really applied light pressure and it just broke it off. So these other 3 will hold it in just fine. If need be, you could also even use a little bit of rubber cement or something and glue it back in if you really wanted to. I don't see a reason to do it, but really straightforward. So go ahead and take all these out, and then you just replace the new ones in. So you can take the mid, put it right back into place, secure it, and then you can plug it in, put the tweeter in, slide it into the clips, plug it all into the proper harness, put the harness with the resistor in the same position here, and then you're all good to go. And then we'll walk right back and reinstall it in the car. All right, one thing about doing all this in order, so you're gonna really want to do these rear speakers first, because when you have all of those plastics off, and including the speaker frames, is when you want to step aside and go ahead and do your subs. Now, there's a couple of things you're gonna do. I mentioned a few minutes ago about taking this rear board out, taking that rear trim piece out here with those 2 little plastic tabs here and here. Now, the sub covers themselves, you're going to get a plastic trim tool underneath and pry them up, and you'll see the subs sitting there. You're going to have 4 T20s around the perimeter of the subs and a simple little pressure clip that goes in for the plug for the sub itself. But you have to lift this carpet. You have to lift this carpet up when you do it. So it's actually easier when you have the speaker frames themselves out and all of this plastic out to get the edges of this carpet up, and you lift it, as you can see, because you're gonna have to feed the sub out from underneath. So let's go ahead and take this cover off, and then we'll show you where the 4 bolts are. You take all those out and take the sub out. It's really quite simple. It's longer to explain than it really is to do, but you want to do this where you can still move all of this carpet to be able to get the speaker out. Okay, so as you can see there, the silver, you can see the silver of those T20s are in the perimeter all the way around the outside. So go ahead and take all of those out, and then simply just lift this carpet up to feed the speaker out. The plug is over on this side. It's a little hard to see right at the moment, but it's right back there. And you just depress the tab on the plug and pull it out, and then you can slide the new one in, screw it into place, plug it in, and do it on both sides. And then you want to finish up your rear speakers and put all the plastics back. Let's talk about that in a second, but go ahead and change out your subs now. All right, y'all, so here we are with the sub in. Like I said, it really is as simple as it sounds. There's those 4 screws all the way around the outside, and then plug it back in, start to fit the carpet back into place. Now, like I said earlier, I'm only going to show one side with all of this because both sides is the duplicate. But with doing the subs, you want to do both rear speaker sets, have all that plastic off to make it easier to get this carpet up, like I mentioned earlier. So make sure to finish up on the other side, finish up your sub on the other side, get that all done, and then put all of your rear speaker sets back together. So put the frame back in, plug it into the OEM plug, and then you can start to put the plastics back in. Now, keep in mind, with the plastics, you put that lower section in first, you fit it back up the seat belt, fit it into place with the little hooks. They go here go behind your carpet. So that will go on. The C-pillar plastic will go on. The mid-piece plastic will go on. And then this top piece here. And I'll show you kind of, quickly summary through all of that, but it really is that simple. If you've gotten it to this part, you've taken it apart, now you're just putting it all back together. Your center channel is in, your door cards are in. So as far as assembly, you're done. Now it's just putting all the plastics back on. You also, if you wanted to, you could also test at this point. You can, as long as everything is plugged in, you could always plug your car in, or turn your car on, excuse me, and make sure that everything's working. But we're all just back in reassembly. So let me get all the side plastics back on, and I'll do you a last walk around, and then you can test. All right, so guys, all done. You know, really, I think the longest part of this install is really the plastics, especially for those mid-body speakers. But as you can see, it really isn't all that hard. You just kind of take it apart in order, you put it back together in order, and as long as you just kind of follow those basic steps, it really isn't that hard. This is something you can absolutely do yourself, and this Performance House Supra is amazing. I mean, outside of doing Bimmertech speakers and everything, this is 1,000 horsepower plus, amazing, incredibly tuned machine. And to have, you know, kind of a point that wasn't, the OEM speakers really aren't all that great. So don't blame the owner for wanting to make sure to have an upgrade that's worthy of the rest of the car, and this is a great way to do it. I would love to play music for you, but first of all, you know, you'd be listening through my camera microphone, so it's not nearly going to be as good as the human ear. Plus, you've got all the problems of YouTube takedowns when you play music on YouTube, right? So I'd love to play music for you, but I can't, and the main goal of this was the install today. So I hope watching this, it gave you the confidence that you can do this yourself. Make sure to check this out through Bimmertech. Everything that you need is listed in the video description below. Please click subscribe and like. Really appreciate it. It makes a huge difference to my channel. I have a ton of projects still on my workbench I can't wait to bring to you. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you on my next video.